I know y'all want to see Chappelle, but y'all can't.
Yeah.
You can't. You got to sit through me first. This is how life works.
Alrighty, everybody. Welcome to the Detroit Comedy Podcast. Our guest today, this weekend's headliner from Comedy Central Stand-Up Featuring from HBO. Got a new special dropping on HBO very soon. I believe next week, correct? November 11th. November 11th.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks. Romantic comedy.
Yeah.
First one is LA meets New York, right?
Yeah, that wasn't my own special. That was I just did a set in like their showcase. That wasn't my own.
Okay.
thing.
It's still on HBO though,
Yeah, that was
you
the
know?
first time,
I mean,
yeah.
and that's what they could find. That's what they got to search to find you
Yeah,
on
yeah.
there. NBC's Bring the Funny, two appearances on Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, 2 appearances.
The second one was recent too, right? It was pretty recent.
Yeah, last week.
Yeah, I saw that. So I wanted to jump into that first because I noticed something out of the gate. I just want to compliment you first off. You have great style off the
Thank
gate.
you, man.
And I
Thank you.
noticed. I know that's going to seem off base from where I was at, but it's not.
I thought you were going to compliment the comedy, but I'll take style.
Yeah, no, the comedy's good too, man. But
I'll take style.
The style too, and that's like what
Thank
I
you.
noticed about the Fallon sets. Is the first one you went like the Tonight Show style, where you went the suit.
Yeah.
You went the straight suit jacket on there, and then
Yeah.
the second one you came in the jean jacket and hoodie, which felt more comfortable and looking at you more your own personal style.
Yeah.
And, was there like was that very well thought out in advance? Was there a reason for that in your head?
Well, the first time I felt like I was just such a fan of the Tonight Show and all the artists, the huge comedians that have performed there. And when I dove into like the history of the Tonight Show, you see like Dave Chappelle wore a suit on the Tonight Show. Eddie Murphy wore a suit on the Tonight Show. So like all the big names that I look up to, they all wore a suit. So my first time on it, I was like, I'm gonna wear a suit too. Like I know this was 2019. It was at the time when people weren't really dressing up too much for the Tonight Show, because Jimmy has more of a laid back feel than Carson or Leno or even Letterman did. But I was still like, nah, I want to wear a suit. He's wearing a suit. The Roots are wearing a suit. I want to wear a suit. It's my first time, so I want to look good. And the second time, for one, it was like more of a comfortable thing for me. I was like, all right, I've done this. Like I feel a little bit more comfortable. And also, I didn't find out till like the weekend prior. Like I found out, I did it on Wednesday, and I found out maybe like Monday that it was confirmed.
Oh,
so
okay.
I didn't really have enough time to get the wardrobe ready.
You're just like, I'm just gonna pick my favorite clothes or some of my favorite things.
I mean, all that is new. Like I bought that the day of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I bought that the morning of, because I remember going to sleep the night before and I was like, I don't have like an outfit to wear on the Tonight Show, because I also think it's important to like, I think there's so much sets being put out there and so much comedy being put out there that when they post something like on Instagram or YouTube or TikTok, you also want to have a look that tells the person, I wonder what this guy has to say.
Yeah, or maybe even something in the like I think there's also something where if you are projecting the image of who you feel you are inside, I think that's also going to read to the audience in some way, and they could even relate stylistically. Sometimes when they just look at you, they're like, oh, this dude kind of dresses like me, maybe, you know, or like if you're wearing the suit, they're like, oh, this person they dressed up for this.
Sure,
What's this?
Right.
Yeah,
so
they look nice. Yeah,
even that was like, why he dress up? Let me listen to the first joke, and hopefully I could get you in. Yeah,
which is weird because you see the inverse of that too, where there's some dudes who will just go up and wear like a ripped T-shirt, you know, and it's like, but that's the style. They bought that ripped T-shirt for $180. You know what I mean? Like
wear whatever you want. I don't care. But like
sure.
when my friends, like all of my friends, when they do the Tonight Show, sometimes we'll talk about what they're gonna wear, and they want to keep it so simple. I'm like, this is your first time on television. You want to, or like on national television, you want to wear a ripped T-shirt? Like that's fine. Like I'll wear a ripped T-shirt for a show like this, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes comedians, my friends, like the Tonight Show, they'll try to like look too cool, and I'm like, just, man, a suit is fine. A suit is still fine. Like you could still.
Yeah, you can tell also, like I said, like it looked, the second time, the clothing choice looked more authentic to like what I feel like I would see you wearing if you were maybe at like the Cellar or like, you know, on a weekend or something, you know?
I'm not
feels like
performing
maybe
in a
like what
suit.
you're more natural in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but then there's also where it's like, you know, there's some people who they wear outfits and you're like, you wouldn't normally wear that.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, there's no way I'd catch you in. Like, you're trying to wear something that you are like not a suit, you know, where they want it to look like it's
Yeah.
something they'd wear normally,
Right,
but you're
yeah,
like, I
that
know
happens a
you,
lot.
and you don't wear that.
That
Like,
happens a lot.
You don't wear streetwear, dude.
That
like, I
happens
know
a
that.
lot, where you have like a one of my, you know, a white 40-something-year-old like dad, and he'll put on like Jordans and stuff, and I'm like, you don't dress like this. You don't even know which Jordans those are, but it's fine. Wear whatever you want. But honestly, like I wouldn't perform in a suit, but I like wearing suits. Like I'll wear a suit, like any type of a formal event, wedding, anything. I'm happy to wear a suit. I'll wear a suit.
Did you ever wear suits? You've done the college circuit a bit, right?
Yeah.
When you type your name in to Google, one of the top things that comes up is like the college bookers, basically. Like
Really?
the
I
website
gotta,
for like the
I gotta
like
change
the
that.
the college something. I forget. It's like,
college
but it's like
agency.
yeah, it's like the college agency.
Yeah, I gotta
which
get that taken down. That's that shouldn't be the first thing that comes up.
It's not the first thing. It's
I've done
the
some
first
things.
page, though. You know, there's a lot of things before that, but that's like
Okay.
in like the first page of it. And so I was just curious, have you done a lot of college work over the
Yeah,
years?
yeah, I mean,
because that's like a whole different basket. Like that's a whole different handbasket in a sense. Like it's similar, but you're dealing with a different beast at colleges in a way. I mean, it can be very different. Like it can be very challenging at times.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I did colleges the first 5 years. Like, I started doing colleges like year 3 into comedy, and I did it up until I was still doing colleges last year. I still do colleges now, but I don't get that many. I didn't get as many offers because I kind of like. I was getting a ton, even like during the pandemic, I did a ton on Zoom and I was going, but then I was just like you said, it is a different animal where I was just like, at this point, I no longer want to go to like North Dakota to do a college for 13 students. Like, if you're going to get me to do that, then I just like, you got to pay me a little more because I'd rather stay home and perform at the Comedy Cellar or the Stand instead of like going on the road. So I'm doing a lot less, but there was a time where I was doing 20 to 25 a semester.
Do you have a worst college experience, out of curiosity, out of performing at colleges? Because I feel like so many comedians have like a nightmare college story, like where they've like had to perform at a college or a corporate or something like that.
Yeah,
I feel
to
like
me,
so many-
colleges weren't that bad. They're not. To me, they're not as bad as people make them out to be. I don't know. Like I'm a glass half full guy anyway. So like when people say this was the worst, I'll do it and I'll be like, oh, it's okay. You know, not the worst. But I remember coming out of the pandemic, it was tough because they really didn't know what to do or how to do it. So I remember like the first college I did out of the pandemic, after doing a year on Zoom, it was in North Carolina and it was on a field. It was like a big field. Everybody was separated wearing masks. We were outdoors. Everybody was separated wearing masks. It was like about 30 people laid across a field. And I was on stage wearing a mask. On stage, outdoors, wearing a mask, speaking into a mic. So, like, no exaggeration, it was like 45 minutes, 50 minutes of, like, just complete silence. Like, I did not know if they were having a good time. I didn't know if they were enjoying it. There was a fire truck that came through there was, like, an emergency, and a fire truck, like, drove through the middle of the field, in the middle of the thing. So I kind of stopped while the fire truck went. But the fire truck drove through the field, and then it was going, like, right there. So I couldn't just continue the show. I had to wait for, like, the fire thing to stop, and that was like 20 minutes, and that was just like a very bad experience. But I mean, coming out of the pandemic, everyone understood that like we didn't know what to do, so people were just like, I mean, I guess this is just life now, you know. So it wasn't that bad. But I remember we were supposed to do 2 shows that night, and I just did. They were just like, just do one, man, you're good.
they're like, yeah, you're good. We don't need another. We're all right. Yeah, we get that. We saw how the first one went.
Right.
We don't.
I had that one, and I had another one that was indoors. It was like in a big theater, and there was maybe 8 people there, and they were masked. This one I wasn't masked, but it's just like silence for like a full hour.
Yeah, that's so uncomfortable. But like also like just a few people inside of a big theater too. Like when you get one of those massive rooms and just like a few people.
I've done a ton of those.
Yeah, haven't we all, man? Yeah. Have you done a lot of corporate gigs in the process too? Because I know like a lot of times if people are doing colleges, a lot of times comics will also do corporate. So do you also work clean? Is that how you got it? Or does it not matter for most of the corporates or college gigs that you've done?
Yeah, I do a fair amount of corporates. That's like the thing also where like when I did the Tonight Show the first time, this was 2019. I wasn't like doing like as established as or like working as much as I am now. Obviously, it's 3 years ago. I've had a lot of things since then, but at the time I was like, I'm gonna use this Tonight Show set to my advantage. So I was like, all right, it's a clean set because it's the Tonight Show. So obviously you have to do a clean set. So my thought process was like, so if I wear a suit on this, like I'm gonna look even more clean to the people. And it worked out because even though I did it at the end of 2019, we went right into a pandemic 4 months later, but I got a ton of corporate gigs or just like they was just like, this is a black clean comic, let's hire him. And I'm like, everyone's clean on the Tonight Show. That's you just have to be. But I think the suit helped with that. So, and now I still do a ton of corporates too. Cause my jokes is like I'll curse like having fun with the audience and stuff, just cause like I just feel like, if we're having fun and I'll curse normally in conversation, but if I have to be clean, I'll just be clean. I just did a gig for Pfizer where I had to be clean. I had to do like 40 minutes clean. That was fine.
That's wild. You did a gig for Pfizer.
Yeah.
Was it like something related to the whole vaccine or just for Pfizer in general?
Well, I actually had a joke about the vaccine. It's on my Comedy Central special that's on YouTube now. You guys can watch it. But it's a joke about making fun of like people who like think the vaccine was like whatever, a chip thing, whatever, where I'm like, if they wanted to do that, they could just make a vaccine for like a disease we already have. They don't need to create a new disease. Like there's plenty of them. Like, for example, herpes. You think anybody be like, no, if there was a herpes vaccine announced, people would be like, yeah, it's fine. So that's the joke. So they saw it, like the head people there saw it, and then they reached out like, hey, we want you to do this. But then they reached out.
So that was the joke that sold them.
That's not even the hilarious part. They reached out about it, and they were like, we saw this joke and we loved it. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. But then it was like, you can't do no vaccine jokes. So none of the jokes that they saw me for, they were like, you could do.
That makes no sense at all. They're like, we want you to come do that vaccine joke, but no vaccine jokes.
Yeah. Well, they said no vaccine joke. I couldn't talk about it at all.
Yeah, that's insane, though.
But I did it anyway. And I did it anyway, and it worked. Like they loved it. Like it was because a lot of times it's like they're just HR and they just don't know. Like it's not that they don't want you to say, they just don't want nobody to get in trouble or offended. So sometimes like I told my managers, I was like because I was like, I don't want to do this because like I'm not gonna write them a whole new set. Like they saw my set, they liked it, this is what I'm gonna do. And my managers and agents, they explained like sometimes they're just worried about you'll be fine, like you don't have anything, they're not gonna get offended by this stuff as long as you don't like offend it. They just don't want anybody to get offended. So I went and I did like a bunch of things that they told me not to talk about, but it was working. I'm like, look, everybody's dying laughing. Also, like if you're doing well, you have that momentum, no one's gonna remember like, oh, I told them not to talk about it. So the HR person after, they was like, oh, that was great, we loved it, we want to have you back.
You're like, yeah, thanks for sending that email beforehand and getting in my head about that.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, how am I going to say how am I going to talk about the vaccine?
You want
joke?
Me to come into Pfizer and do a corporate gig for your company and not address the one thing you guys have been known for the past 3 years? This is all we're talking. This is the only reason people really know your names at this point. Like we all forgot what Pfizer was until you did the shot, and now we know you.
But the people, I mean, it was for a bunch of scientists, a bunch of young scientists. I literally like got to meet and speak to the people who developed the vaccine. That was pretty cool.
That's wild. Yeah. That's pretty crazy. I mean, were they actually interesting people, or were they just kind of boring and sciencey?
I mean, nerdy? They explained to me how the chip works and how they put it in. It was great. This is going to get taken down YouTube.
No, that's going to be a clip. They're
going to take this down.
It's going to be a clip, but the CDC is going to put a little banner under it.
And Fox News is going to share it like, you see, this comedian was there.
Fox News is going to have you on.
I know, I'll do it. I need the credits. I need to promote this special.
I had one more question about that Tonight Show set that I did get to about the blazer. About 1 minute into the set, you get like your first really big laugh.
Yeah.
And you unbutton the blazer.
Yeah.
Was this a very intentional thing in your head that you were always going to do? Or was this just like a thing in the moment where it felt right or something?
No, it wasn't like a thing where I planned like once I get that pop, the blazer's coming off.
I was just curious because that's what it felt like almost.
No, I had a joke.
You felt like I'm loosening up now.
No, that wasn't it. I had a joke at the end of the set where I do a kick.
Okay.
And I hadn't rehearsed the joke with the suit on. And then when I had the suit on, like in the middle of my set, I started to feel when I have to do this kick, it's just suit jacket's a little tight to do the kick. So like when I got that applause break, I was like, all right, I'm buttoning it now because it's too tight. So I unbuttoned it there. It was just like you do your act, but your mind is working like 2 jokes ahead.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was just curious. I was like, I wonder if this is like a intentional thing, like a nod to something almost, or if this was just like I have to do this.
It was just my head telling myself, you put on a little weight, so if you don't want to embarrass yourself on national television, unbutton the suit jacket.
And then on the second time, you had a little ribbon here on your jean jacket.
Yeah, that was
a pink ribbon.
Yeah, the breast cancer awareness.
Okay, I thought it was. I love that. It matched like the hoodie too.
The pink,
it just had like the little ribbon there.
Yeah.
Did you put that on there for a specific reason? Was it just something personal to you out of curiosity?
Yeah. No, I mean, the first time I got to do the Tonight Show, my mom, that was the first time she ever saw me do comedy. I brought her to the Tonight Show, and she was there, and that was like a big deal for me. Unfortunately, my mom passed away last year from cancer.
Sorry to hear that.
She got diagnosed with breast cancer, which was caught in the early stages. But through the test that they run, they found out she had colon cancer, and unfortunately, it was stage 4. So she ended up passing last October, and I just wanted to put the ribbon on to like, one, honor her, and to remind everybody out there who's like, even if you're watching, like, enjoy comedy, like to remind yourself or your parents or whoever you know to get screened for all the cancer screenings that they require. It's very important. I didn't know about it. If I would have known, I would have told my mom and she would have done it, but I just didn't know about it. So that's why awareness is so important.
That's a beautiful sentiment. It's like taking a little nod to your mom with you into your set, you know.
For sure. Yeah.
I'm very close with my mother as well. Like I have a tattoo of my mom's handwriting on my arm there.
Yeah.
And like I've said, when I record my first album, I want my mom to be the one that introduces me on it.
Yeah.
Just, ladies and gentlemen, my son Kyle Forsyth. You know, and that's what I want. I was like, I want my mom to be the one who introduces me on my first album.
Man.
You know, So
that's beautiful.
I love that. Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel. I'm like, that's a beautiful sentiment. I'm very close with my mom as well, so I love that.
Thank you, man.
Were you did your mom do a lot of the raising with you? Were you very close to your mom growing up?
Yeah, we were really close. My mom and dad, they were still married. No, I'm the youngest of 5. But yeah, my mom and dad, we were like a tight knit family. Me and my brothers and sisters, we're all tight. Like everyone's tight.
Are you close with your siblings still?
Yeah, of course.
Do any of them live near you?
Still? Yeah, I mean, we all live in New York in the tri-state area. My brother lives in New Jersey, but my sister lives in Queens. My other sister lives in Brooklyn, and I live in Queens. So we're all right there.
So you guys get together often?
Yeah, we get together for the holidays and any type of like birthday or big event. We, of course, yeah.
Gotcha. And how'd they feel about you doing the little nod to your mom on there? Did your siblings notice that? And
yeah,
say
of course. Everybody noticed that. Not only them, but my cousins, my uncles, everybody noticed that. And they were happy and proud of it. It was like a big moment.
And how'd that feel for you? Like when they all saw that you like sort of made that little nod to your mom, you know?
To be honest, I didn't really think about it. I was just like, you know, it was cool. Like I'm glad it came over. I just, you know, for one, more than the nod and that and what it was to my mom, I honestly wanted people to watch, to tell their parents or whoever, their wife, their kids, whoever, to get screened for cancer. So if they're doing that, then that's like the goal of me wearing it.
Hear that? Get scanned for cancer, everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
go out and get scanned.
Yeah, man. It's very important.
Yeah. Awesome. So you have like, I mean, I guess on the idea of family, you have like some personal stuff inside of your act and everything. You sort of, I think it seems like you draw from a lot of different areas. I think it's very observational in a lot of ways. Do you try to drum up material, or you just sort of take things as they go, write them down? Like, how do you work out material yourself? I know a lot of comics I talk to, they're like, I do it different ways. It works different ways, you know, at different times, and I get that. But what's like the most comfortable way and for you? Because like for me, I get an idea, I write idea down, take it to stage, usually try and work it out to some extent, and then I'll take the recording later, listen back to it, and then try and deduce down what I need to take out, you know, what needs punched up and stuff.
Sure. Yeah. My, you know, a lot of my stuff is observational and autobiographical. I like to just have like, you know, what I consider like clever observations and some autobiographical stuff. And I sit down with like, I'll write down notes in my phone and I'll just sit down with them and try to figure out an angle or a joke. I mean, it's no secret. And I know like some comedians like to get up and be like, oh, you know, these are not jokes. These are just like the real thing that actually happened. But it's like, I'm a professional comedian. It's not the real thing that actually happened. Mm-hmm. You're embellishing and making it better, which you should be like, embrace that instead of saying, I'm not doing any work. This just happened and I'm telling it. Like, no, you're making that stuff that happened funny and putting it yourself. That's the skill. That's
so I tell
the
people,
talent.
I'm like, there's a nugget of truth there, but I've embellished it to make it funny. Yeah, it's like, but there is a piece of truth there that this started from.
Sure. I mean, and I embellish in real life too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, listen, I don't want to waste your time. So if I'm telling you a story, I have to make sure that that story is worth the 30 seconds of me talking. So I'll be willing to embellish stuff just so you could have an enjoyable 30 seconds, which I think is a nice thing. I'm doing that for you.
You're making their day better.
Yeah, I'm doing that for you. I don't want to waste your time. I got to compete with Instagram and TikTok, and you're going to go to your phone. So I want to make the story good. Same thing with the jokes. A lot of times, sometimes it's stuff that happened to me. Sometimes it's stuff that happened to a friend that I'll like adapt it to convey a point of view, stuff like that. You know, I think, you know, just to quote like Seinfeld and I forgot who was the other comedian that said it. Some just like comedians are like, oh, this is real. This is a true story. I'm like, I don't care if it's a true story. Is it funny? I don't care if it's real or not. What is that? Like, and to me, if it's not real, you're like better. Like you're like a better at you're just creating this.
Yeah, and how much? So like when you have something, how much of it do you feel is like writing on stage for you, and how much do you feel is sort of writing on off stage for you?
I don't consider myself somebody who writes on stage. I usually have the skeleton of the bit on, and then I'll just, if anything, I'll add tags and switch the wording, but I'm not like concocting bits on stage. I was just having this conversation with another comedian yesterday. Like that, I'm just not doing that. I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm just not there yet. I know. I heard Bill Burr talk about it. Bill Burr was like he writes on stage, but he was like, it took me 25 years to be able to write on stage. He was like, now you see comedians, they're like a year in. It's like I write on stage, and it's like, no, you don't. You don't write on stage. Yeah. You should be writing at home.
Yeah.
Because writing on, and this is no disrespect to anyone who does it, but I feel like writing on, people was like, oh, I write on stage. I feel like that's like an excuse for you to be like, I don't do anything at home. Like, I don't have to do anything at home. I kind of just show up, and that's how I develop it. But for me, it's like, I sit down, try to write something, and it's very difficult. I understand why you wouldn't want to do that part of it. Like, the fun part is saying it in front of the crowd. I get that. But I try to fight through that to continue to come up with stuff and continue to put it out there. I mean, it's nothing better than like when you write a new bit and you're like excited to try it out and stuff. But I need to have like a exit point on the bit. I can't just be like, I have this premise and I'm like, I'll take it on stage and see how it goes. I just can't do that. I wish I could. I might have more material.
I think there was like when I first started, I kind of fell into that trap of, at first I started and it was like, oh, I'll write stuff on paper, and then I fell into the trap of like, I'm just gonna write on stage, and then somebody was like, you're not gonna get better if that's what you were doing. I was about 2 years in, and somebody was like, you're not gonna get better if that's the only way you're doing it. Like, you need to actually like sit down and write and look at the things you're saying, listen to the things you're saying, and rework those things you're saying. They're like, you can work things out on stage, they're like, but also work it out off stage. And like that was like the revelation for me almost, where I was like, oh, I need to be recording every time I think like I'm working something out on stage. You at least need to give work off stage, give that same amount of energy off stage, you know?
And, I think I mean, who am I? I mean, I don't know anything about comedy, but you know,
everybody's different too, from what I've learned from talking to people.
Whoever's doing it on stage, like if you're just writing on stage and you're killing it, I would venture to say that if you took time out and went home with those bits, you would be that much better. So even if you're like the top comedian, Burr, like if he were writing, it might be even next level, even Burr 2.0. Like writing at home, the bit, I don't think there's a negative to it. It doesn't hurt you, because if you're killing it on stage, at the worst you'll just be doing that. And at the best, you'll add stuff to the bit.
Exactly. It's like worst case scenario, you can leave the bit the way it is and continue doing it
continue
that way.
Murdering how you're murdering.
Or you'll end up with more tags.
Or you murder. Yeah, that's the only thing. The only thing you got to lose is your time.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to like. Also, I suggest to comics where I'm like, if you have a tag and you think like maybe it's just not working the way I think I'd like it to, I'm like, go home, sit down, write as many tags as you can for that punchline, essentially, you know, write them down, try out every single one of them at an open mic. I was like, who knows? I was like, because you got open mics, just run them at open mics, and what doesn't work, cut it. I'm like, you don't need to keep what doesn't work.
I think it's like a numbers game too. It's like posting a clip. Like you can't post a clip and be like, it didn't go viral, so I'm never going to post again, right? Same thing with writing. I feel like some people sit down, try to write, and nothing comes up, and they'll be like, I'm not good at this. I can't do it this way. And it's like, no, that's how it works. Like, I sit down and can't come up with nothing a lot. But then sometimes I come up with something, you know?
Yeah.
But like you said, things work out for different people, and other people do it their own way, and people are killing it doing their own way. So do whatever works for you.
I mean, writing works differently for everybody. Like you said, like Burr and like Chappelle and like some of those dudes are great
I'm not telling
at writing
Chappelle
on
to
stage.
sit down to write. You know, Chappelle is a genius. You know.
Yeah, but it's
but
like,
everyone.
it's
but
like,
also with the Chappelle comparison, when people bring up Chappelle or Burr, it's like, yeah, that's Michael Jordan. So when you're like, oh, but Michael Jordan, like, think about that. If you're like, but Michael Jordan didn't go to practice, like, yeah, that's Michael Jordan. Not even Jordan. It's like, that's Kobe Bryant. You're not Kobe Bryant.
Exactly.
You have to work at it. You know, even though he was like the hardest worker. But yeah, like using them as an example, I feel like it's not a good example for the.
That is fun when like
the regulars.
Comedians use that though. Like when they're like, well, this comic says they do it that way. I'm like, yeah, but they've been doing it like 25 years.
Yeah,
like,
and they're also one of the best ever.
Yeah,
so.
like their brain works differently than the rest of us. They're not like us.
Sure,
like,
no,
we're different than them.
I have to work.
Different.
I have to put the pen to the paper and sit down for hours to come up with like a decent minute.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah,
which like you told. I guess I want to jump into like some of your big supporters in the industry and stuff. Which we were talking last night. You said
supporters?
I think so, man.
Cool.
I think you got some support. Hey, Tonight Show seems to be behind you. Comedy Central seems to have given you a lot of work out there.
Yeah.
I mean, Comedy Central seems to have done a lot of stuff with you at this point. They've done a few things with you. They seem to like you over there.
Yeah,
you know?
Shout out to the folks at Comedy Central. Comedy Central, the folks over there, I mean, a lot of them have gone on to like work elsewhere now, but those guys who were running Comedy Central in like from like 2015 to like the pandemic, they saw me showcase for the first time in 2015, and I did a Comedy Central showcase in New York City, and they were like, you know, they enjoyed it and they stayed in contact, and they gave me my first opportunity with everything, whether I did the first season of Comedy Central stand-up featuring. This week at the Comedy Cellar, I was like, out of 6 episodes, I think I was on 5 episodes. And the episodes they didn't put me on, I didn't record that week. I was out of town. So, and then they gave me the half hour. Like, they gave me the Comedy Central half hour. So they have been immensely supportive to me. And they were the first ones that got my stuff out there. I got 2 clips for Comedy Central on Facebook, 2 different ones that have over 10 million views.
That's
on
wild.
their page. Yeah, they were the first ones where I started going on the road, and for the first time, people had seen what I do and were there like, hey, I've seen you.
And almost all your Comedy Central videos on YouTube have about 100K at least.
Almost. Yeah.
I mean, most of them, I was looking at a decent amount of them today, and it's like they've got like 100K. Comedy Central even... they like you enough to have given you your own video of it was 7 things
the best
to
of
get
to
know Ian Lara, basically. Yeah, it's like they gave you like they don't do that for every comic. They've given you enough like work that they've got enough clips from you to put together this like 7 things to get to know Ian.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for those folks over there. Shout out to Ryan Moran and Gabby Yak. I know Gabby left, but all the guys over there who like believed in me and gave me that opportunity. I'm very grateful. But you know, it becomes a thing where it's like, all right, you get us, 20 million views. Like, all right, we'll give you a best, we'll give you something. Let's see how this does,
Yeah.
But no, they helped me immensely. Shout out to them. Big shout out to them. Same thing with the Tonight Show and Michael at the Tonight Show, who saw me in like 2017. That's when I showcased for the Tonight Show, I think in 2018, and I didn't get it at the time. I wasn't ready, but Michael believed in me, and he was like, you'll get there, just keep working. And a year later, he called back and asked me for a tape and put me on. I
gotta say, I fucking love that perspective you just had there, though. I want to rewind just for a second. You said I auditioned, but I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And I love that you have that perspective so much, because I think so many comics lack the perspective of I just wasn't ready at the time. Like,
I mean, it's
impossible.
I think I'd argue
that.
I'd argue that it's almost impossible to have that perspective when you're going through it. Because if you would have asked me in 2000,
a lot don't even have it looking back.
Yeah, I mean, but it's the delusion you need for comedy. There's like you need to be delusional now to tell a comic. I mean, there's comics year in, they're posting clips, they're going viral, they're headlining. Which you can't tell them they're not ready. They're like, no, I'm ready. Like, look at all these. I said 400 people here to see me. I'm ready, you know. So you can't have that thing. But you know, I know. I mean, I've been doing it. I'm going on 11 years. Like you know how you get better. And sometimes even the opportunities that I did get, I look back and I'm like, yeah, I wasn't ready there. I mean, I pieced that together, but I don't think I was ready for that. You know.
Yeah, I do love that perspective, though, and hearing that, because it's a very honest perspective that you don't always get from every comedian, you know, where they can look back and recognize, like, yeah, I didn't get that because I wasn't ready then, and I got it now, or I got it when I got it because I was ready, and I deserved it when I got it.
And by not ready, that doesn't mean, like, if I would have got the Tonight Show in 2017 or 2018, whenever I auditioned, I mean, I feel like I would have had a good set. Like, I would have had a decent set. Like, the jokes were there, but like as a person, first of all, I wasn't even ready for what would come after that. So it's like, you want to do the Tonight Show for what? So you can get work, right? So you can continue to work and grow in this business. So it's like, I would have done a Tonight Show set, and that's a hot audience that is there to see comedy and they want to laugh. So generally you'd always have like a decent set at least. So I would have had that. But then if I would have got work, I'm not ready to go do the work. You know, because I don't have the time or the chops.
We don't need to say any names, but there's a famous incident of a Last Comic Standing comic that started headlining way before it. It's like, it's somebody who's been talking about it in the industry for a long
Joe
time.
List.
No. There's another person. It's like one that I've heard a lot about, this person, where they even this person has said it. They were like, I think like 2 or 3 years into stand-up or something when they were on Last Comic Standing. Then they started headlining, and they're like, I was not ready for it. They're like, they just sent me on the road. They're like, but I pulled it together and somehow had an hour. They're like, and I made it work. And they're doing fine now. They're doing great now. They're doing amazing. But
are they? Because then I don't know who you're talking about. Then we're talking about different persons. The person I'm talking about is homeless now. So
okay, we're talking about different people then. Yeah, we're talking about different people.
I mean, listen,
it's very interesting. So it's like it could go either way. You never know in some weird way.
Yeah, I'm a comedy purist, man. Like, not pure. I don't want to say I'm a purist. That sounds like a douchey thing, whatever. I'm just like, I'm a comedy nerd. I'll say that. So it's like, I think
same.
I think you have to follow the steps. I know now there's a fair argument to be made by a lot of the new younger comedians. I consider myself a new comedian still at 10 years, but younger comedians who make a fair argument of like, you don't have to play by the rules that you had to play before. But I'm a big firm believer of, like, I was doing a club last week that was completely sold out, you know, completely packed house. I did 2 shows, almost 400 people. That was amazing. But I think doing a show like the one we did last night, where it wasn't a completely sold out, and knowing how to deal with that, those are the chops that build me being able to handle a completely sold out show.
Absolutely. Is dealing with those empty rooms or dealing with those like shitty dive bars makes you strong enough to be able to deal with when you have a weekend and it just didn't go how you hoped it would, maybe, you know? Like, and it's like, so like the room's a little lighter than you would like it, but that prepares you for being able to handle that.
For sure.
Because those people who start out early and are selling out early, that may not sustain. And then eventually one of these days they may have to deal with one of those shows where it's just not quite sold how they want it to, and they're not going to have the right skill set there because they haven't, or maybe they'll have a skill set, but it won't be sharpened like it has been over the years of doing these shows, you know?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a rough
kind of like
situation.
Grinding.
It's a rough situation for those guys who are killing it, who are new and killing it because they had, you know, whatever, maybe sketches or a podcast or clips go viral and they're doing good numbers. I mean, they're killing it. Like, they're literally, like, I applaud them because they're doing so well. But if you look at the history of comedy, the history would tell you that, you know, getting that opportunity so early on sometimes can hurt your career more than it helps it. Like,
for sure, you
want to, in this business, I feel like it makes sense to pop at the right time. You have to, like, luck has to meet preparation. So if it's just not luck, but if it's just like something like that's not exactly the art of stand-up, and by not the art, I mean, like, you know, stand-up generally it's like 45 minutes to an hour. So if you've made a huge following doing a minute of crowd work and then you go on the road and you can't do that 45 minutes to an hour, some guys get it together and they learn how to do it and it turns out to work for them. But I feel like it could hurt them because I know it might have hurted me if at the time I wasn't, you know, I had to build it from the ground up, like build the show from the ground up in front of people who didn't know me and wouldn't remember me if I did bad. And that gave me the freedom to create, and I didn't have the pressure of 400 people coming out to see me and me not having the show to give them. That's like, that would hurt me, although I would love it. Share my clip.
You share those Comedy Central clips. They're abundant.
Please,
There's plenty of them.
Yeah, but shout out to them, shout out to those guys, because they're like, they figured out a way to like do it, and that's like part of it too, figuring out the way around it. So
yeah, exactly. It's reinventing the comedy system that has been in place for years in some way, and it's great for some people, and it is not working for others.
Yeah,
you know,
which
it's
is
like,
fair. Like, you could say that about anything. A Netflix
Exactly.
special,
Yeah.
great for some people. Some people you never hear about it. You know,
Exactly.
so same thing with them. I mean, I would just say, not even like worry about that. I would just say, like, remind them, like, you still have to do the work. You still have to like write, come up with stuff, perform in front of people who don't love you, because that's like a thing where like you know, I'm sure you run in a club, you see it all the time. People come through and you're like, this audience loves him. They know what he's talking about. These callbacks to like stuff he didn't even talk about at that night, you know? So it's like, do that, get your money, but then also try to like perform in front of people who don't know you.
Yeah.
And you have to win them over.
For sure. Like, it is so healthy to perform in front of people who don't know you. I mean, and it's also it's also one of the hardest parts too. It's like, it can be so difficult sometimes. I think in a situation like one that I wanted to actually bring up, because when I was talking about people who have been supportive of you, we sort of talked about, you did some dates with Dave Chappelle. We talked about this last night. You were telling me he brought you out for some dates with him.
Yeah.
And that dude is, I mean, we've talked about him a little bit already. I said, I think personally, in my opinion, greatest of all time. My opinion. But it's hard sometimes when you're in front of an audience that came out specifically to see one person, and then they just sort of look at you like, who the fuck are you? Like, they almost like don't care. They're like, get to the guy we paid for. And that may not have happened with Chappelle. You know what I mean? Like, that may not be the incident of that. But I think we, as comics, as an opener at some point, we've all sort of been in that instance at least once before, where they're like, where's the guy we came for, though? And like, those are the audience where it's like, we're not here for you. Like, those are the ones where you really got to win over, I feel like.
Sure. I mean, first of all, like, Dave, legendary, like, working with him was like amazing. It wasn't through like, Dave didn't see me, select me, and be like open for me, because he's not like in the thing like that, you know. But I was recommended to his people who put on the show, and they allowed me to be able to open for him in New York on a couple shows, and that was like a crazy experience. But I find, like, even from the show yesterday, like how I find sometimes acknowledging exactly what you talked about, what you just spoke about, is the best way in. So like, even when I was opening for Chappelle, or at the Cellar, if I have to follow Rock, or if I have to follow Chappelle or Kevin Hart, whoever, acknowledging like what just happened, or acknowledging like, I know y'all want to see Chappelle, but y'all can't. You can't. You got to sit through me first. This is how life works. You can't just, life isn't just Chappelle's coming out as soon as you paid. This is life. You have to struggle first. So I open with like,
you got to sit through this dude Ian first.
Right. All right. This is the struggle part of life. I open with that attitude, and it always gets them, because they're just like, he's right. Like, this is life.
Oh man, that's great. Well, I guess the last question I'll ask for you, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Do you have I know some people don't love talking about this because they like keeping them to themselves sometimes, but I like to ask about long-term goals. Do you have any like long-term goals in your head, things you'd in 10 to 20 years you'd love to have seen yourself accomplish by then?
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky.
I know we all have a lot of them.
I've been lucky in the last 10, 11 years doing this. I've been lucky, so lucky and blessed to be able to accomplish a lot of the things I set out for, such as The Tonight Show, Comedy Central half hour. I wanted that. Now doing a special is going to be on HBO. That's like so huge. Like, that's like, I feel like that's like a career's worth for some comedians in the last 10 years. And for a long time, that was my focus of like, I want to do these things. So I want to have a 5-minute set for The Tonight Show. I want to have a Comedy Central half hour, and I want to do a special for HBO. That's my own. I'm sorry, tired of my own stuff. So that was the goal for a long time. But now that I've been lucky enough to accomplish those things, I think my goal for the next, I don't know, until it happens, is to transfer that to like getting people to come out to see me. Because I'm seeing that, like, I'm seeing people who enjoy my comedy and follow me and want me to come to their city and want to come see me, but I want it to grow to a point where I'm able to, like, you know, sell out at a city. Like, I want people to come see me. I feel like I've put in the work. I've been doing this every night for 10 years and working on the craft, and I have a craft that I find I feel like personally is worth the money, is worth the $20 plus 2 drink minimum for you to come see, and I want people to come see it.
Perfect. Yeah. All right, people, we'll come see it. Ian Lara.
Or don't. I don't care.
I think you should come see it. All right. Ian, I appreciate you doing the podcast. I appreciate you being here this weekend. Let's have 2 good shows tonight, man. Thank you so much for doing it, everybody. Catch you again next time. See ya.
Later.